Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Dynasty Dingers podcast. It is July 30th. Trade deadline just passed us about 2 hours ago here. Doc and I are going to break down some of the biggest moves over the last couple days. We have a lot of names, not necessarily the names we may have been looking forward to, but a few organizations definitely made some big splashes. But first, before we get into it, Doc, what is going on, brother?
I'm in Canada, man. I'm up here for some
Yeah,
reason, and I guess I'm good luck. I don't know. We're getting like an echo in this room. We're just doing
you
this.
sound pretty good for me.
I'm glad I sound good for you, and hopefully for also our listeners.
Our listeners, yeah.
There's no cigar in my hand. There's my baby sleeping in this room tonight too. There's no booze just because I'm about to go on a 2-day camping trip, and I don't want to. I know what's going to happen on the trip, so I'm just like calm down now. Being a little bit smart. Anyway, maybe I was good luck being up here because the Toronto Blue Jays finally did. Like they've been in free fall, man. Like I've just been so grossed out by their organization, by their farm, and I think they came away as big winners from today. It's kind of jumping right into the flow of things here, but yeah, I think we're supposed to just like go through the tracker today. I'm excited to do that. Just folks, we're gonna give you we're gonna be like one of the fastest folks to this breakdown.
Yep.
And it's actually a little bit better than the guys who are live streaming. Why? Because we're not live streaming, and you have to like us more. But also because that's the emotional immediate take. We've had at least a few minutes to think about it. So anyway, we're gonna have a lot of fun, folks. I'm excited.
Yeah, before we jumped on, kind of while I was doing my babysitting duty, I was watching RotoWire's live stream, and they're doing a nice job. They're going organization by organization. And honestly, Doc, I'm going to read some of these off to you. I'm going to get your take. You just tell me in all honesty if we can move on. I like what RotoWire was doing, but they were definitely going through every single trade. I'm looking at one right here. Gregory Soto to from the Phillies to the Orioles. Seth Johnson going back. Like, I have an opinion on this, but I don't necessarily know that it needs to be talked about. So if a
Sure.
trade like this comes up, just tell me, we're going to pass on through it because a lot of deals happened today. And I like your take on the Blue Jays because so much was happening that I know some deals were made, but I have to, as we go through this, even catch up myself a little bit. Because I'm curious to see who you're so excited about. So let's kick it right off. Jack Flaherty from the Tigers to the Dodgers, the return back is going to be the prominent catcher, Thyron Lorenzo, the guy that we really liked this offseason, has had a little bit rough 2024, as well as Trey Sweeney, who's formerly a Yankee. Both of those players going back to the Tigers. What are your thoughts on this deal?
It seems like an underpay compared to the market, but hey, I guess they were getting up against the wire, right? They must have felt, the Tigers must have felt like, dang it, like it's either this or nothing. It was like what the last big deal basically. It was one of them. So if you think about it like that, I'm trying to give them some credit because yeah, it feels like a little light in my opinion. But hey, Lorenzo has the potential to be rip roaring kind of guy. Jozu, saying that wrong probably. Brasino is in Detroit too, another big catcher. So we'll see who wins out between them for the catcher of the future.
Doesn't hurt
Yes,
to have two solid approaches, right? At least like you have the power with Lorenzo, and then with Brasino, you have more of an overall kind of like Basalo esque.
he's so weird. He has like no power yet, but he's huge, like 6'4", 230
Yeah,
or something like that. So we'll see what happens, man. All in all, hey, better that than nothing because there are some teams who did nothing. That's what we have to think about, folks.
yeah.
Because I'm hearing, everyone's like, "Ooh, yeah, Tigers got fleeced." It's like I guess, but what if they didn't move and then they get nothing? And there's a lot of teams out there that got nothing today.
So there's a piece of this deal that I don't know that very many people can talk about because they don't know Jack Flaherty's circle, and I don't want to say that I know Jack Flaherty's circle, but I've had interactions with Jack Flaherty within my own profession. He loves Los Angeles. And I think there's a piece of this where the Tigers may have gone to him and said, "We've got 5 deals on the table. They're very similar deals. Where would you like to go?" And in good faith, they allowed him to choose. Now, this is all
Wow.
just me saying possible, but when you think about it, he was on a 1-year deal. This essentially sets the Tigers back for a rebuild of probably 2 or 3 years out for contention. Once Max Meyer is up, once Bryce Rainier is a little bit closer, they have to basically reset this organization because Torkelson didn't work out. So why I'm saying that is because they're going to need to sign other guys to kind of fill this gap as they get closer to contention. Well, what a better way to sign free agents than saying, "Hey, Look what we did with Jack Flaherty. When he needed to be traded, we gave him the option of where do you want to go? I'm signing, right? Like I'm that's a better indication for me to sign. And again, this is all hearsay, but I do believe there were 3 or 4 deals on the table. And I believe he was given an option because this is a perfect fit for the Dodgers, but it's also a perfect fit for him socially. And it just makes too much sense coincidentally for this not to have been at least a like, where would you like to go?
That's a creative take, and that's the kind of creative take you're only going to get here live on Dynasty Dingers.
And if I ever see Jack again, I'll ask him, and he's gonna be like, "What the hell are you talking about?" No, they just called me and told me I'm going to LA. I'm like, "Oh, great, okay." So everything I said was just completely fabricated.
But it's fun.
Awesome.
But this is way more fun this way. So we're gonna roll with it. That's the truth. That's the true story, folks. You heard it here first.
Well, and Doc, we had we were jumping on, when we jumped on, we were talking. I'm a Brewer fan, and you're more of a Cardinals fan, but the Brewer fans were very unhappy that the Brewers didn't match the Jack Flaherty offer. And my takeaway was, well, what's the asking price? I think Lorenzo is probably close to equal to Wilkin, and I'm not giving up Wilkin.
Nah, shouldn't be that high, but maybe
it's hard. It's hard because organizationally we're trying to find similarities, and we like Wilkin a lot, but he hasn't performed as well as we thought. I'm sure there's probably another name that we could kick around. I guess my point is for the price that the Dodgers had to pay, I'm not having my organization pay that, because when you get to the playoffs, as say the Brewers or the Cardinals, you're probably not winning a World Series because of Jack Flaherty. He might help you get through a round, but is he going to be the difference maker that brings you a ring? Probably not. So are you going to give up a starter for the next 6 years? I don't think so. All right, Doc, next trade on the docket. Padres acquire Tanner Scott from the Marlins. They also acquire Brian Horing, also from the Marlins. Big piece here was Robbie Snelling, Adam Mazer, and then Graham Pauley, as well as Jay Bashirs. The big names here, I think, Snelling, Mazer obviously coming up as well. But for our fearless co-owner, it's going to be Graham Pauley. This is a really big name by Ross Jensen, who he's been following for, I'd say, a couple of years now, right? Pauley's been one of his guys.
Yeah, I mean, I've been a bit of a. I think you and I have both been Pauley guys as well. It's really weird handling by the organizations. Like they gave him a shot, didn't quite work out. Over kind of intermittent platoon, bench kind of guy, utility guy at bats, and now he's gone back to AAA. And it hasn't been so good. Now, I haven't seen how he's been doing. I'm going to go look at his minor league splits to see if he's been improving in recent games. But, I had him flying up my ranks before the promotion. There you go. Yeah, he's turning it around a lot lately. Last 28 days, we have 424 OBP. That's pretty zany. A 283 average, not really doing anything, not really. You're lacking some juice there. So two home runs, one stolen base in that time. Now he had previously flashed some like 2020 kind of upside. So if we're not going to see that, I don't know, man. Hey, if you can have an approach like that though, anywhere in AAA, over 400 OBP in a month span, I mean, there's still something here. Maybe he's not as high ceiling as we thought he was, but he's 23 years old. He's going to get some opportunity here. The Marlins, man, they had a day.
Yeah, they had a day. I think what's really interesting too here, Doc, we look at the organization relationships as well. Padres and the Marlins having this trade being done. Well, they also made the trade that sent Luis Arias over to San Diego. So this is an organization on both sides that has had communication, has probably been talking different names and got another deal done. But the Marlins now acquiring yet more of the Padres prospects. I think when we look back at the end of the year and we look at some of the names that San Diego sent over to Miami, it's going to be pretty shocking. But Robbie Snelling is the biggest name for me here today. 6 ERA at AA, not a good season coming off what was a fantastic season in 2023. It'll be interesting him going to an organization that is known for developing pitchers if they can turn him back around. 73 innings this year, 67 strikeouts. We also saw a dip in the strikeouts. His whip is at a 1.68. A lot of work that needs to be done here with Snelling, but there's an organization that I think can do it. It is Miami, and Snelling should be getting a little bit of a bump here. And definitely a guy I'm keeping my eyes on. What about you?
Well, I had him so high. I think a lot of
Yep.
us had him really high heading into the season. Super concerning development since, but he's still got, he's 20 years old. That's what we can keep falling back on. First round pedigree, big body, big frame. I'm trying to see his last month here is still bad. Is he hurt or something? He's actually
Hmm.
only pitched 7 innings in the last month, so I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah, I don't know.
Might
The
have just
only
been like,
indication.
hey, go, just sit a
Yep.
few out.
Yeah, just hang out for a little bit here.
Because folks, we're talking about really, really, really rough numbers over this year. Because it's yeah. I mean, he's not striking anyone out. He's letting in a lot of runs. He's not. Well, the walks actually aren't out of control, but they're higher than they were. 4 is fine. 4 walks per 9. Not too concerned. It's almost more concerning that that's not high because that means he's getting hit. Yeah, he's
He's
got
getting
11,
hit. Yeah.
11 hits per 9. Not going to work. Almost 2 home runs per 9. This is just screaming. He's not striking guys out. So I don't care. You know me. I'm a grinder. I like the low velo grinders. It's like if you can give me some volume Ks, that's fine. But you need to induce low quality contact. And so we're going to find out. Like you said, I'm optimistic in that Miami knows how to develop pitchers. I'm a little concerned in that the Padres aren't bad at developing pitchers. So like that's not something they've historically been pretty decent with it. So we're about to find out if he keeps this up the rest of the year. I mean, I don't think he's even a top 100 prospect for me. Like, I mean, I don't know. I'd have to look at it. I don't even know where I had him on my last rankings. I'm going to look that up while you talk.
Well, and it's interesting. And I don't I mean this is pushback, but I don't know. While listening to you, I wanted to run through the pictures in my head that they've developed, and because I've had the same approach and opinion for them, which is Padres, good organization, and I think I've finally bought into the fact that they are selling what they're doing as gold when in reality for me it's really copper. And I say that in regards to pump these players up in their minor league systems. They showcase these prospects, they trade them away, and then we really get to see what the profiles actually are.
Mm.
The last pitcher that I think of them to actually developing that would have any relevance would have been Mackenzie Gore, and we saw the issues that Mackenzie went with from high A to triple A, top 5 prospect back-to-back years, and then completely falling off. We see what happened with Dylan Lesko, who we're going to talk about here in a little bit. I don't really know because they've traded so many of these guys away before we can really tell like what their development actually looked like. And we have Dylan Lesko, who I had pegged coming into preseason as the breakout pitcher of the year. That didn't work. And now Robbie Snelling as well. Both pitchers took massive steps back. I think what we're going to really be able to tell is from these two players what their pitching development is. If Tampa and Miami can turn around Snelling and Lesko, I think we really have to question the ability of San Diego's pitching development. But it's just almost impossible to know because they trade so many of these players.
Yeah, I think as I was saying the words that were coming out of my mouth, I'm like, wait a second, like what do they
Yeah.
actually have to show for it? Like, yeah, I think we always kind of say that. I don't think I'm the only one who has had that opinion before, but you're right. I think everything you just said is very much a valid point, and this might be an indictment, dude. Justin Steele's getting lit up, man.
Yeah, it's not good.
What the
I'm
heck?
feeling the pain right now in my categories league with him. Well, and I want to just touch on that. We'll kind of blow through some of these trades since we're having side conversation here, Doc. But I think the industry is finally on to the Padres. I think the idea of them being able to trade C and B chip prospects is kind of turning people the wrong way in the industry itself because they're not trading the really big guys. And I think this deadline showed finally what front office GMs are really looking at the Padres prospects as, because Lesko and Snelling should have gotten you way more than what it actually got them. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, let's go. It's kind of a weird thing. That's kind of funny, huh? Like if I had Lesko and Snelling, I do have Snelling in a 20-man with Ross. We co-manage something. If I had them in like our 30-man league, I'd be holding because this is selling low.
Selling low.
Which is
Yep.
almost like that's also another thing, right? If they're selling, I mean, it's just also the AJ Preller effect. He seems like a very impatient guy. But we're gonna find out again. Is he just that aggressive, or is he like identifying? Oh no, like this dagger has more room to fall here. Like I traded Spencer Torkelson about a month ago, in our 30 man, and I was like, I'm selling pretty low here. It's kind of dumb. And the dagger has fallen.
And now he's on my team somehow. He's been traded again somehow.
That wasn't. I did not trade it to Matt, but yeah. Hey, I think you got him at a way cheaper cost than I gave him away for.
Well, he was a throw-in in our deal.
Yeah.
That's the dagger falling that you're talking about.
Yes. So stock trading talk, folks. You're trying to catch. You're not sure if you're buying low or you're catching a falling dagger. It's a saying.
But honestly, for relievers, I think Miami and Tampa did pretty damn good. I'll take the upside.
Yes.
Of both of these kids, Snelling and Lesko. Okay, next deal. I'm guessing you're going to tell me to move on. Alex Cobb to the Guardians from the Giants for Jacob Bershahun. I butchered that name. I'm sorry. Kid is in A-ball, 6'4", 195, 19 years old. He is a left-handed pitcher. Nice height. Currently this season, 12 games started, 270 ERA, 50 innings, 66 strikeouts, a 1.08 whip. Really nice numbers, Doc, but he's an A-ball. We just talked about what Snelling did last year. We're talking about a kid that we might see in 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, I'm not really familiar with him. Player to be named. I guess we'll see who that is.
Yeah.
Alex Cobb is underrated. He needs to stay healthy. He's kind of just like he is what he is. 3.5 ERA would be great. 4 ERA is like okay, I guess. And he's going to give you something in between there probably, which is like a weird guy, right? Especially if he's going to be closer to 4 most likely. And so for fantasy, not super exciting, but in some leagues you're going to want him. Deeper leagues certainly it's worth something. Real life, it's worth a lot. Hard to find a starter these days, and so that's a nice grab for the Guardians, in my opinion. And yeah, I mean, not much development to do with Cobb now. He's a vet. He's up there in his years, but that's a nice little under the radar move, cheap acquisition for Cleveland.
Yeah, it is, and it's interesting to see the Cobbs and the Montezes and some of these other starters, where they're in former years it would just be throw us some cash, throw us $10,000 and we'll give you Alex Cobb. This year it's actually taking this young left-handed pitcher who we might have to keep an eye on because he has good numbers, and it's like, well, the price is a little bit higher than it has been in years past. Next deal is going to be the Reds trading infielder Davis Wenzel acquiring Wenzel from the Rangers for cash. We can move on past that. Yeah.
Yep.
Yankees acquire De Los Santos. Let's see here.
Move it.
Enel.
Although Balboni is a great name. Is that
Balboni Jr. too?
Balboni Jr. Okay, I want to look up who this guy is because.
So Brandon Lockridge is going to be the player that's going back. He's 27 in the minor leagues. Doesn't really matter to me.
Yeah, I'm not really into these guys. I
34
love that name.
stolen bases though.
Thomas Balboni. Tommy Balboni. Dude, look at this guy's face. Okay, one of his pictures got a great mustache. All right, folks. Yeah, if you want to take away anything from that trade, is that we got a guy named Tommy Balboni Jr. going to New York with a mustache like that. Yeah, he's going to be a stud. I don't even know what his numbers are. But mark him down as a guy to watch in deep leagues.
Next deal on the list is going to be the Padres acquiring Martin Perez from the Pirates for a left-handed pitcher. Last name Jimenez Ronaldis. 18 years old, 3 games, almost no numbers, 6 innings, 8 Ks in his professional career. So this kid's just starting out. This is, again, another piece I think we're talking about underrated for Perez. The deep leagues, I'm a little more inclined to be rostering Perez's depth now. Does this matter to you?
Yeah, I mean, it's so weird. I remember when Martin Perez was good for a year.
Yeah.
I never bought in the whole time. So, eventually, I guess I was right in time. I don't know. Again, this is you're pretty much you're making a weird face. What's up with that?
I'm looking at the next deal on the list.
Okay, well, Perez, if he can be anything like a couple of years ago, great deal, low cost, whatever, kind of like the Cobb deal.
All right, so next one is, honestly, this is shocking. I saw it come through, but I didn't realize what they had to give up.
I didn't see that. Okay, sorry, I'm cutting you off, but yeah.
So you looking at the same deal that I am?
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. So Red Sox acquire Luis Garcia from the Angels for 4 prospects, and I thought, okay, it says 4 prospects, can't be anything big. Nico Cavadas, first baseman, 25 years old, really nice numbers right now. Is 25 though, but Matthew Lugo is in this deal.
Mm-hmm.
That's shocking, no?
You know, that's the name that caught me. So, dude, in our 30 man, I had two guys I was thinking about keeping as my last prospect. Lugo showed promise. He's actually, I think, Albert Pujols' nephew or something weird like that.
Okay.
So that had me interested. But last year he had like 20 walks to 120 strikeouts, and I was like, oh yeah, this is not going to happen. This is not a guy to roster. And of course, he broke out this year. So
And so you didn't keep him. You chose the
no, I
other
didn't
guy.
keep him. It's okay. My team's awesome. But
So yeah, Lugo, 16 home runs, 16 stolen bases, 285 average, 375 on base percentage, OPS of 942. He will be AAA for the Angels. Wow.
great get.
Yeah. And then the Kavadas, Kavadas, Nico Kavadas, a left-handed first baseman, 25 years old, will turn 26 come October. 17 home runs, 281, a 424 on base percentage in AAA. I could see this guy being kind of a sleeper in deep leagues in the second half. I mean, why not call him up and just see what he's got?
Yeah, I've heard this name before. I mean, it's I'm not a total Cavadas expert, but I know some folks who have talked him up. So yeah, I mean, pretty good for a 37-year-old reliever.
Big changes though. Last year hit 206, so we're
Okay.
seeing a very big jump in his performance. Okay, moving on. That was a big deal. Again, the relief pitchers are just drawing in some crazy names. Orioles acquire Gregory Soto from the Phillies for Seth Johnson and Moises Chase. Any interest in talking about that?
Not really. Soto used to be pretty solid. I think he's better than his 4.08 ERA. Nice bullpen depth. That is what it is.
Yeah. Kiermaier, I'm going to move on past. Blue Jays getting Ryan Yarborough for him.
Okay.
Giants acquire Mark Canha from the Tigers for Eric Silva. Any interest there?
Mid. That's a classic. Mark Canha. Of course, Mark Canha is going to be on the Giants.
Always getting
That's like
moved.
such a good fit for like a guy who I would never want to roster. Like it's like most boring guy. I feel like they've had the most boring bats in San Francisco lately. So we'll see.
He had a nice little run when he got traded to Milwaukee at a deadline. Canha's just that guy where, you know, I feel like kind of like Soler. If he lands with the right team at a deadline, he can make an impact. If he doesn't,
Kind of like Soler, but like way less exciting.
way less exciting. Yes, way less exciting. Diamondbacks acquired Dylan Floro from the Nationals for Andres Chaparro. Now, this one's interesting because I butchered his name, but this is a prospect that has been really, really, really performing well at Reno. The problem is it's Reno. So gauging his actual ability to perform has been a bit of a challenge for me. Do you have a take on this individual?
No, it seems like it's an interesting trade. Both playing great this year, but you know, probably not as good as their numbers indicate. You know, Floro 2.06 ERA. I don't know if that's going to stick all year. And then Chaparro. Yeah, we'll see, man. Reno is a hell of a drop.
Yeah. So first base, third base, DH, Chaparro, 25 years old. He'll be 25 up until next year, up until May. 19 home runs, 332 average, 403 on base percentage. Again, plays at Reno. Kind of the same concerns that we had for Davis and De Los Santos. They were in the same lineup together. And, you know, you just have to wonder what that altitude did for those numbers. Kind of the Coors Field effect in the PCL. Next deal. Orioles acquiring Austin Slater, an infielder, Livan Soto from the Reds for a player to be named later. This is big for me, Doc, not because of the names, but because I think this kind of puts a nail in the coffin for some of the prospects we wanted to come up for the Orioles. What do you think?
Maybe. The question is, how good is Austin Slater, and how long will if he keeps batting 185? I mean, I don't get this trade. I don't know what the Orioles were doing. It's kind of a weird day for them. Maybe they see something we don't. Maybe they're like, oh yeah, we can just fix that little hitch, and he'll be an all-star. I don't know, but yeah, it's not like he's playing very well this year. So it's confusing. I don't really like it on the surface, but maybe I'm dumb. Maybe this 31-year-old journeyman will. I'm trying to look at his. Yeah, his best season was 12 home runs and 15 stolen bases. Yeah, I don't get it, dude. He must play some really good defense. I don't know.
Player to be named later or just came in, Jackson Holiday. No, that'd be that'd be hilarious. Next trade, Rays acquired Dylan Carlson from the Cardinals for Sean Armstrong. I like this a lot for Carlson. If there's ever a reclamation to his career, maybe the Rays can do it.
Yeah, I mean, what a weird, tumultuous kind of ride for Dylan Carlson. there was talk that the Cardinals could have got Juan Soto, and they refused to put in Dylan Carlson.
I've
That
heard
was
some of those.
that's
Yeah.
a real thing. People. I mean, as in people
No, I
believe
know.
that. I'm not sure I believe that. I don't, think that would have got it done. But yeah, it's even last year. People were still holding out hope for Carlson, and supposed to be the superstar cornerstone. Absolutely abysmal effort of abysmal job developing him from the Cardinals. So I hope
Well,
hope the best for the guy.
and Doc, are we seeing a trend here? Because at first it was Carlson, and then it was Jordan Walker, and the names are starting to pile up with the Cardinals in their development. It will be interesting to see if we look back on this and we say that Dylan Carlson was really the starting point of their lack of development for bats at the minor league level.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's going to be a big second half for Walker and Victor Scott if they both flop, and if this is like the beginning of the bottoming out, that would be an indictment. And I'm not the guy who's usually like fire everyone, but it's like, don't fire everyone. Fire whoever's working, whoever's behind this bat mismanagement, this development of bats, because you're not doing it.
Yeah, time to change it over. Moving ahead a little bit here. This next one is kind of right in line with what we just talked about with the Orioles. Orioles also acquiring Eloy Jimenez from the White Sox for a left-handed pitcher. Again, I get Eloy a little bit more than I get Slater, because maybe with Eloy you do really see something, right? We have the backtrack of the 2020 season to say, hey, he did have an elite performance in a 60-game stretch, but Eloy's been bad. He's been injury plagued. What are your thoughts on Eloy going to Baltimore?
Way more exciting, but yeah, I guess they're just hoping to get him healthy and get some magic out of him for a playoff run or something. It's his last year of his contract, so I guess if they're like, yeah, we got the cap room, whatever, let's make it happen. I guess it's like just some little cherry on top. Way more exciting. He's really good when he's healthy, man. Like, he can be really good. An electric bat, especially if you plug him in seventh or eighth in the lineup. Like, that's lineup depth. Got him crushing bombs back there.
This is an interesting one because you said it perfectly. It's his contract year. He went from Chicago to Baltimore, right? Very big difference in environment, expectation. If he wants to make any money whatsoever, he needs to take this move seriously, and he needs to come out over the next 2 months and play at his absolute best. This could be a difference of multi-millions of dollars and multi-year contract for Jimenez. We're not talking about $100 million guy here anymore, but like, this could be the difference in a 2-year deal and a $20 million contract, or a 1-year, $2 million deal for Jimenez. So he really needs to take this and do what he can with it. And I think that's probably what the Baltimore Orioles are seeing, right? Like, let's bank on a guy that needs to perform for his own career. I think that's the interesting part of this deal for me.
Yeah, I agree. That's a good point.
Let's see here. Pirates acquire Brian De La Cruz from the Marlins for a right-handed pitcher and Garrett Forrester. Any thoughts on this deal?
Brian De La Cruz is a weird guy.
Mm-hmm.
It's he's been on like breakout or hype or sleeper picks, for a couple of years now. He hits the ball pretty hard from what I understand, but he just can't seem to put up together in consistent stretches. I'm not sure if he's I can look it up here, if he's a lefty specialist or something like that. But yeah, really weird guy. You'll see him just crush it. But I'm at the point where I'm like, I think we kind of know who he is. He's just so, quote, only 27. He just can't really get on base. If you have any kind of on base leagues, that's a problem. But yeah, he can blast the ball. He's approached 20 home runs a couple times. Just kind of an ultra mid fantasy option.
Yeah.
As far as I can tell, but that you can also see there is certainly upside for more. I'm looking at his splits right now. Yeah, exactly what I thought. He's got a 229 batting average against righties, and 278 against lefties. Much more acceptable. Still not really, taking walks, still striking out too much, but he really, really bad against righties. And that explains it, because I'm like, I feel like I see him in very small pockets of just elite, and those must be, times where he's facing more lefties.
Yeah, and the NL Central just did very NL Central moves this year, where Brian De La Cruz is, again, like, he has a place on the team. And I saw the best tweet. It was like, if you think the Brian De La Cruz trade doesn't matter, just remember that Connor Joe has been batting in the middle of their lineup. And it's like, okay.
Oh yeah, I love it for the Pirates. I mean, just
Yeah.
because anything's better.
Anything that's the concept here, right? Like, oh, they got a guy that can start at times. Like, that's a win for them. Absolutely. Moving on here, we're gonna kind of scroll a little bit here, Doc. I'm looking at Mets acquiring Paul Blackburn from the A's for Cade Morris. Morris, coming out of Nevada College, 22 years old, was the Mets' third round pick, 101 overall in 2023. 18 games, 16 started, 3.51 ERA, 95 Ks, and 92 and a third innings. Like very athletics-esque pitcher, which will probably turn into the next Paul Blackburn.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Yeah, I got no real comment on this one here. I'm just concerned for. Do you have any thoughts on that?
On Blackburn in general?
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting what the Mets are doing. I don't know what to do with Kodai Senga anymore.
Okay.
I had drafted him in a few one-year leagues. I don't have him in any dynasty, but the fact that he pitched 5 total innings this year and he's done it for the year is really frustrating.
Yeah. Okay. So my deal is, and this is, I used to be a little bit nervous with players coming over, pitchers in particular, coming over from Japan or Korea, especially when they're undersized. I just noticed a pattern. It's not like I'm saying this is how you have to be. This is how they all are.
They all get hurt.
How it is.
I'll say it. They all get hurt.
But a lot of these guys got hurt. Remember growing up,
Yeah.
Bai Young Kim, could he stay healthy? I feel like I saw a few of these guys who would just be like,
Hideo Nomo too, right? Daisuke Matsuzaki.
Yeah, I remember the guy who's on the Jays recently, the Korean fella, not Ho Park.
Channel Park was Yusei Kikuchi.
I hope we're giving everyone who grew up in the 2000s some like nostalgia right now because I'm throwing out all kinds of names.
Man, Channel Park got hurt too, but Channel Park did have more durability.
I'm talking about, is it not Hwai-Yun Lee or something like that? The guy, he was on, I believe, the Dodgers as well as the Jays. You know who I'm talking about? Like last year.
You're not talking about the kid that was on the Athletics and then went to the Orioles. No. Okay. Well, I'll help us steer us right back into.
You folks out there, you let us know on Twitter. Our 5 listeners, let us know on Twitter who that
was the international pitcher from Asia that pitched for the Dodgers.
He's from Korea.
Okay.
And he was on the Jays recently, and then the Dodgers as well. So anyway, pretty good when he was healthy, but I didn't buy it because I knew he wasn't going to stay healthy. So dude, I sold Shohei Ohtani as a batter. I actually believed in him more as a batter than a pitcher for similar. Just because I'm noticing a pattern here. For some reason they can't withstand. They're used to a different schedule. I don't know what it is. The 6-day schedule. Maybe that's what it is. But then I even sold the bat of Ohtani right before he really broke out, and I'm like, dude, the one guy comes over, he's an Iron Man, he's just like this legit bat. So point being, with Senga and also now Yamamoto, I started buying in on Yamamoto being durable because I saw his pitching motion and it was very repeatable, right? Very simple. I'm like, ooh, that's good. And dude, he's like strained rotator cuff. This is being underplayed, in my opinion. Yeah. That's not good. And especially for an undersized guy who might need to be giving a little bit more to get out of it, to get more out of his offerings. I mean, maybe it looks simple to us. It's strenuous on him. Maybe it was lucky. I don't know. But man, I would just be cautious about these international guys, pitchers, especially if they're undersized, because Ohtani's also a physical freak. He's like 6'4" or something, right?
Well, we're going to look back on last year's FYPD, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong, but the few leagues that I drafted with you in that we are in shared leagues with, you had the first pick, and you didn't have to choose Yamamoto over Skeens. Is that correct?
Not true. I picked. There was international, and there was.
In our 30, yeah. So, but you didn't choose Yamamoto over Skeens in any league.
I chose Langford over Skeens, and I got
Yamamoto. But at the time,
and I still, it's a tough one, but that'll be interesting to see who wins.
But I think, I think the Langford is more understandable for the time frame. But the real hard one is Yamamoto. You just said it, rotator cuff. It could be career not ending, but nagging.
I traded him as soon as I saw the injury news. I'm like, I think it's so weird. I'm telling you folks, with TJ, you can actually get like a decent value kind of soon after the injury, because people don't know how long 2 years can be. Like if it gets dragged out, like Andrew Painter right now, we're like, who is this guy again? Like there's so much fatigue. You know, Robbie Ray, he went from like, I remember when he got hurt, I was like, oh, well, it's okay. He'll be back. He just did a Cy Young pretty recently. This was last year, right? He'll be back. And then now, he was on free agency in like every league basically this year. You could scoop him up a couple of weeks ago in some of them, depending on how shallow your leagues are. Anyway, and he's,
yeah, we have a $365 million Japanese pitcher here in Yamamoto, where you have the difference, right? You have a difference in appearance, as you're talking about. I think that's interesting. I'm going to steer us back, Doc. I'm going to keep us moving here.
Sure.
Any final thoughts?
By the way, his name was Hwan-Yin Ryu. Ryu.
Oh, Ryu. Yeah, Ryu.
Yeah. Anyway, moving on.
And he was good until he wasn't. Right?
He just got hurt too much, man.
Yeah, he was good until he wasn't. Moving on, we're flying past Lucas Ehrig from the Royals. That's a nice small little deal. Mason Miller.
I would say that Ehrig to the Royals is actually important. Because they brought in Hunter Harvey and he's having back spasms already. That's their big thing. Like these guys are like they're getting close to putting something together here. And Mason Barnett was on my preseason top 100, my pre-spring training top 100, and he's starting off the year so good. I was excited, and then he kind of fell apart. And he's been struggling in the upper minors. Will Klein, it'd be maybe interesting, but I think we got to be really concerned here for Bobby Witt's job security because Paul DeJong is coming in there, and Bobby's really got a lot to worry about now because this is a wily vet. He's a wily vet, and Paul DeJong, a couple bombs, and Bobby Witt might be water boy.
The fact that Paul DeJong has been able to continue his major league career, not only continue but rejuvenate, is an absolute credit to him. But it also goes to show how absolutely terrible the White Sox were, because before his stint at the White Sox, he probably should have been headed out of professional baseball entirely. And here he is being a value wily veteran at the deadline getting moved. It's kind of just crazy to me how baseball works in that nature.
I love it. So many shots of redemption.
But yeah, just redemption all over the place. But you're right. Again, another relief pitcher. I think Burnett is the player in this deal of note. In years past, you just probably wouldn't see a player of that, magnitude that we still think has potential being included in for what was a setup man in a bad team. Josh Bell headed over to the Diamondbacks. Christian Walker having an injury. It could be a little bit of time, so this could be notable. Josh Bell could be of value and serviceable in some leagues. Any interest in Josh Bell?
I cut him in a fairly deep league. I'm rebuilding, to be fair, in a dynasty. So, and it's just like I wanted to pick up a prospect. So
fair.
I wouldn't necessarily recommend that. But also, he's like, 31, 32 now. Yeah, is it going to happen or what? Is this just like, is he on the way out now? Maybe he has one more renaissance year in him. But, yeah, it's, I don't know, dude. I don't get excited about Josh Bell. Yep. Maybe a new beginning on a competitive team will help. Maybe he likes the desert. Maybe he hates humidity.
Would you rather have Carlos Santana or Josh Bell?
Santana, I think. I have not seen his numbers. Let me just take a look here. Carlos Santana, how old is he now?
He's not young.
Yeah, he's 38.
Yeah, I was gonna say 38 sounds about right.
But even then,
I'm thinking about just like one season usefulness, and I'm taking Santana.
Yeah, I think so.
There's at least a little bit more pop left in his bat, but 243 this year, 14 home runs, 1.8 WAR. Yeah, I mean that's a solid player. There's a reason he's been moved around a lot at the deadline, staying with the Twins this year.
Yeah.
Next one, big one. Orioles making another deal, this time with Scout the Stat Line's number one enemy, Connor Norby, and Kyle Stowers in the deal. Oh, and that one's for you. The little beef you had with Connor Norby online was beautiful. But Connor Norby getting moved, and for Trevor Rogers, who has not been good for a number of years, Trevor Rogers, did have some helium his rookie year. I am ecstatic for Kyle Stowers in this deal. Could care less about the Connor Norby news. What are your thoughts?
Man, I think Norby is solid enough despite the beef. We got live breaking news. I friggin' should have made the pickup in my. Okay, everyone's gonna know by the time this comes out. Jackson Holliday just got recalled.
Really?
Yeah. Okay.
So are they sending Eloy Jimenez on a AAA? I'm joking, of course, but
man, I'm so annoyed. So he's been staring at me in the face on my what is it called, TGFBI, the guru bit, like 400 team league, you know.
Oh, and he got
Now
dropped.
we're broken up into little, and yeah, he's been sitting there. It's oddly deep but shallow. The prospects, like, you don't want to waste a roster spot on a prospect. And it looked like he wasn't going to come up this year, or maybe in September when the rosters expanded. I thought I had another couple of weeks. And I have Kobe Mayo sitting there. I'm like, well, Kobe Mayo's getting next dibs. Because it would seem logical.
Because the Orioles just do everything that we assume, right?
Yeah,
at all times.
they're just messing with us. Okay, so we'll talk about that in a second, I guess. Luckily, we're on the Orioles right now. Norby's underrated. He's playing all right, dude. He's playing good.
He is.
He hates Owen. That's okay.
Well, but he's headed to a team where he'll play at least. But
so
I would say that about both of these
getting
guys.
Mad at Owen about how good the Orioles. Yo, our guys are sick, bro. And we're all like, you might not be there.
You're not gonna be there, dude.
Hey, he's like, dude, what does that make him? Is like Stowers goes from like top 25, you know, Orioles prospect to like top 10, you know, like hitting like what are these guys for the hit? Is Norby the top hitting prospect in Miami? I mean, who?
I mean, I'm gonna take Norby's numbers are better, but Stowers' exit velocities are fantastic. That's the thing that I really like.
He's got cool hair. He's got that surfer style.
And what was he? He was 71 overall in 2019 coming out of Stanford. Yeah, I love what Miami did. Miami,
though.
Yeah, I mean, the 240 average is not good. The amount of strikeouts is not good.
I feel like Trevor Rogers has been playing better lately. What are we thinking here? Let me see. Last 28 days, 3.38 ERA. Nah, what's up with that whip? I'm on Baseball Reference. It's not the best for splits. I can't tell why he's got a high whip. That's a high whip, though. Don't like that. But, hey, he's limiting runs, which is better than what he's been doing lately. No strikeouts, though. Yeah, hey, you need to change the scenery. Maybe you grab some greasy wins here for fantasy purposes if you're in a wins league. Yeah, I mean, dude is still pretty young. He's still, 26. We'll see, man.
His 2021 was just incredible. It was a 2.64
I can't forget it completely. I can't. The numbers are so good.
Yeah, I mean, but he's just fallen off a cliff. Honestly, this year he's sitting at he's 2-9. You know, thinking about 30 years ago, how that mattered. 4.53 ERA this year, 21 starts. He's 105 innings. He's been durable.
He's 6'5". He's got a big body. I've always liked the idea of him, and I've been trying to buy low the last couple of years. This year I was out. But hey, I was out and the Orioles were in. They're just messing with me, dude.
I think this is really interesting too, though, Doc. He has 2.5 years of control left. So he's arbitration eligible 25, 26, free agent 27. Like this does make more sense for the Orioles because if they can fix him, he becomes a really valuable 5 or 4 in that rotation. Mm-hmm. I mean, I get it, right? And giving up Norby and Stowers were guys that I think the big thing I saw on Twitter was why didn't they move these two for Jack Flaherty, right? And we don't know. Again, there could have been a number of reasons why Flaherty is in LA and not in Baltimore right now. We don't have privy to that information. But yeah, so real quick, Norby and Stowers, do you think they come up for Miami this week?
I don't see why not. I'm sure that they've burned some control already by being up. I don't know. I don't know what their status is or what, because if they can get their control, into next year, maybe they'll leave them out till the rosters expand. I think Agustin Ramirez. I had a battle for Agustin Ramirez with you and a couple other guys today. Everyone remembered Agustin Ramirez, who just got traded to the Marlins. That's why it's relevant. He's probably my top 5 non-debuted prospects now. He had a bad first week at AAA after just destroying AA. But he had a bad first 6 games. Just like whatever. He's adjusting to a new level. Ever since then, he's almost got a 400 OBP. He's blasting bombs, stealing bases. I don't know what his defense is like. I'm not watching, Yankees AAA games. Unfortunately, I got stuff to do, guys. But I'd be curious to know how his defense is coming along, because if Agustin Ramirez's defense can stick behind the plate, look at the Miami catchers. I hate putting guys down. They're trying to live their dream, but these guys are not putting up. It's gross. It's gross offensive fantasy stats. I'm sure they're great defenders, but if the Marlins can get a really solid bat behind the plate there for fantasy purposes, that's great. And I think they need to see. It'd be fun if he keeps crushing AAA the way he's been doing, Mr. Ramirez. then yeah, man, see what he can handle. Give him an audition this September. But yeah, I think by September at the latest, you're gonna see, man, what up, man? I'm just kind of like a little bit excited about Marlins bats. What's going on? I feel weird. What's he like? Augustin Ramirez, Connor Norby, Kyle Stout. It's gonna be like this weird, like, party of guys we didn't really see how they were going to fit on rosters. Even Ramirez, he was talented, is talented, but I didn't really know how he fit with the Yankees. Now it's very obvious.
Well, you haven't even mentioned the name that we have talked about probably the second most on the show, which is Davison De Los Santos also being there, right?
Yeah.
It was interesting. I had a conversation with my good friend Richie, who you also know, and we were just kind of talking about the complexity of, like, if we were sitting as a group in the Marlins front office, what would we say to each other? We got a big ballpark. We need guys that have really big raw power. What are we going to go target? We're going to target Ramirez and De Los Santos. Like, they couldn't have gotten better profiles for what they need for that ballpark.
And they have Berger.
And they have, I mean, you need guys with big, tremendous power. And Ramirez has seemed to show that in the minor leagues, although his exit velos aren't necessarily where I'd like them to be, but sample size is too small to judge him. De Los Santos is
but you know that
awesome.
But sorry to cut you off, but you said that earlier today that Ramirez's exit velos aren't where they should be or where you'd like them. But Beck came in there and he said they're actually something about 90th percentile.
Okay, so Beck was probably saying that his 90th percentile was where he wants it to be.
Yeah, I'll see if I can dig that up, but I'm just gonna say things like that so it sounds like people agree with me and not you.
Well, no, find it because I want to like Ramirez, and the reason I continue to check his average exit velos is because I want that number to change.
Yes.
I want it to be closer to 91, 92, even 90 would be okay. The last time I checked, he had dropped below 88, and his home runs that he's hit haven't broken the 110 threshold. So there were just some concerns that I had with, like, how much does he actually have in the tank? But I mean, you and I both have him ranked incredibly aggressive. I have him top 30.
Okay.
And that's not non-debuted. So that's, James Wood still in that, Jackson Holiday, Junior Caminero, like, those guys are still all in there. So Ramirez is highly ranked for me. If his exit velos were where I wanted them to be, he could be probably top 10, which is crazy.
Yeah, I don't know exactly where this post went. Was this on the one I had today?
I don't know. We'll find it.
This is gonna kill. We're gonna kill our readers or our listeners.
Well, and we have this conversation next week, especially if once he changes organizations. We saw De Los Santos hit a home run in his first game with Miami, which was nice.
I'll tell you this much: he hit 3 home runs in the game earlier this year. I'm not too worried about the power. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, and I would say the same thing about Ben Rice. Ben Rice was getting absolutely jumped on Twitter. Has had a nice couple days against the Phillies. Again, these kids are young. Doc, we're at 50 minutes, so I'm just going to jump around here a little bit and talk about some of the deals that happened. Okay, we're going to go all the way to July 26th, and then I'm probably going to bounce back today. Mariners acquire Randy Arozarena. We're going to talk about this because of Aiden Smith. You absolutely are a massive fan of Smith. Brody Hopkins also in this deal as a right-handed pitcher. Break Smith down a little bit and talk about what the Rays are getting.
So it's funny, Aiden Smith, I put him, I believe, 64th overall non-debuted prospect. And like right after that, he started slowing down. I'm like, no, don't make me look dumb, because he was killing it. But this is a guy, seems to have a pretty solid approach. He's really fast. I remember I was first excited about him when I saw that, I think it was MLB.com. There's a couple reports out there that he was or he might have been the best prep hitter out of Texas in the past draft class. I'm like, well, this is a really deep draft class. And Texas produces great hitters. So, hey, I want this guy, especially because he's going like nobody knows who he is. And I think he went 4th or 5th round.
What a hell of an old school scout way to look at things, but you're right. I just wanted to jump in and say that. Like, that is very much not looking at the data. It's Texas, good baseball players. Yes, I want. Like, but that works.
Yeah, I know. I do. I can't wait till. Well, I can. I don't want to be old, but it'd be funny when I'm old and everyone's gonna just yes, yeah, he's past his prime. Right now, I'm just like a weirdo. Everyone's like, "What?" It looks like. Anyway, I look like you're still in high school. Yeah, Aiden Smith though, he's exciting, and the numbers they back it up. That's great, right? When the old school scouting style can meet the stat line, scoutthestatline.com. I'd love to see what their projections are saying on him right now. Should probably look it up for an article. But he's got 28 stolen bases this year in only 77 games, 9 home runs, 402 OBP. Give him that man a promotion. Let's go. Get him out of low A. Let's see what he can do. He's still just a teenager.
Yeah,
But
the promotion will be interesting. Montez has not performed very well at high A. Modesto, as we've talked about throughout the year, had a plethora of stars, budding young prospect stars. Smith was one of them. What a hell of a get for the Rays. You're talking about a kid that is entering a great organization that can have time and isn't blocked. I think more importantly, we talked about the Mariners a lot. Probably was going to be blocked at least a little bit of the way there.
Any of these young guys with the Mariners, I don't really actually worry about that. You don't really necessarily want to worry about that in general because guys can change positions depending on who they are. But especially guys who are teenagers, like even a Colt Emerson. We're over here like, oh, Colt Emerson. Dude, they could send him off somewhere. Cole Young could be sent off somewhere.
Yeah.
Over the offseason. The Mariners do that with their prospects just as much as the Padres, it seems. So, and we just saw it right now. Yep. So I'm happy, man. It's, I don't actually know about this Brody Hopkins guy, but I heard he's all right too. So it seems like a pretty solid deal.
Yeah, this was definitely a deadline where knowing the top 250, I think, would have been really beneficial because there were a lot of names that I was like, well, let me see who this is. And we obviously do this podcast, so we like to think we know a little bit more, or at least we're a little more informed than most people. So it was shocking to see how many names got moved that I had to, kind of look into. I want to jump into the Blue Jays a little bit here because you did kind of tout them. So I want to start off again, July 26th. Mariners acquire Yimi Garcia from the Blue Jays for Jonathan Clase and Jacob Sharp. What did you think of this deal? And do you think Clase can provide some long-term dynasty value here?
Yeah, I mean, so Clase, you gotta. Oh, nice, Belly gets a home run in his first game back. All right, we gotta finish this podcast though. So I'm basically like my arch rival in this one league. It's a head-to-head. So, and he traded me Belly. Poetic. Okay, Jonathan Clase, his approach needs to clean up, but he's so fast, he's got enough pop that a team like Seattle's not going to tolerate for too long, but Blue Jays are so rough right now that he's going to get all these chances, right? So really fun, good landing spot for him. I think that's a good one. I mean, you want to talk about that a little bit, or maybe like just rip off a few names that they brought in today?
No, rip it off. I'm going through the list right now and trying to put it together. Okay. But if you,
I said Blue Jays Control F, so I can just go through that. You know what I'm saying, bro? So I'm just going up.
You say I'm more technically advanced. I would argue you definitely are.
Nice. That was just a little moment there. So they got Cutter Coffee. Do you know anything about him? I've heard that name. I don't know anything. I don't know much about him. There's so many prospects.
High school kid taken by Boston. Kind of. Yeah, I have really played into that one, didn't I? Definitely showing some power. So 14 home runs this year, 238 average, but took him out of Bakersfield. So has some California pedigree, second round pick, 2022, 41 overall. I mean, 41 overall is noteworthy. 6'1", 20 years old, third base. I could see him playing into a startable or usable third baseman. The power needs to be there, though. Strikeouts are also there. 100 strikeouts in 99 games last year, 65 Ks in 61 games this year. The Ks may prevent him from ever hitting the major leagues.
Speaking of which, Joey Loperfido heading to the Great White North from Houston. That's going to be an adjustment, huh? Along with Will Wagner. I haven't really know too much about him. Jake Bloss, he came up here. This is on the Kikuchi deal. These guys all went from Houston for Kikuchi. And Bloss, he came up to the bigs for a little bit. He looked all right. He's flashed some potential. Might be an under-the-radar kind of guy. But, Loperfido, folks, are familiar with him being a buzzy waiver wire guy this year. Showed some promise. But, again, too many Ks, we don't know. But it's been already. The Jays are looking more exciting than they did. And the last one I'll mention about them was, I can't even see it on this list, but it happened as far as I'm aware. Isaiah Kiner-Falefa.
Yes. Yes.
They managed to move this dude for Charlie McAdoo.
Yep.
That's like some of these big geeks are fellow fantasy geeks. I don't know who it is. Upside prospect. I think it might have been him. There's some of these guys who really get into the nitty-gritty prospects. Deep leaguers love this guy, Charles McAdoo. Check him out. And basically, you can get a guy with this much upside, an arm with this much upside for a guy who like IKF, who is like kind of the Paul DeJong mold of just bouncing around, making the paychecks, doing what he does, right? So I thought McAdoo was a pitcher. Oh my gosh, what a bum.
No, so I'm looking at it right now. So
Yeah. So no, this is the okay. Yeah, go on.
yeah, I mean, flashing some nice numbers this year. Started off at high A, 60 games, had 9 home runs. We like to see that. 14 stolen bases with that, looking like a paired combo there, but batting 336 with a 415 on base percentage and a 561 slug. I mean, he was in due for a promotion. So
How
bounces
funny
up
is
to
that though? That I just assumed a prospect from Pittsburgh who was worthy of note had to be a pitcher.
well,
Yeah, it's like,
also
of course it's a pitcher.
why trade from a place of deficit already? That's interesting. 27 games at Double A, 5 home runs, batted 269. So he's putting together a nice little season here. He's 22 years old, second base, third base, right field. So it looks like Baseball Reference has him playing a number of different areas. Drafted 13th round in the 2023 draft. I think this is another piece, and I wanted to just jump in there before you talk about McAdoo's numbers that I just wrote off there, Doc. Astros and Pirates now did this, trading a guy that seems to have started their career hot, successful. Let's just say successful. And, prospect tiers are upset about it. But Bloss was a 3rd-round pick. McAdoo was a 13th round pick out of San Jose State University. You got, some quality big leaguers here in a trade-off for guys that may not be quality big leaguers. But I do like McAdoo.
Yeah. I look at these numbers. I can see why people are getting hyped up about him. And by the way, he seems like they have him primarily, well, in his last story, we'll see what the new organization does, primarily at third base, with a little bit of outfield. But yeah, I'm going to be honest with you, man. I heard Charles McAdoo. Another thing I thought he wasn't, a brother. He's a black dude. And Charles McAdoo. I don't know. It's just the way I was like, this is like I pictured like a twirly mustache 1930s lefty pitcher for some reason. I don't know, with like big, tall striped socks. Just a real kind of different fella. And so, yeah, it's cool,
Yeah,
man.
so the profile is not what you were expecting.
Not what I was
whatsoever.
thinking. No, he looks cool though. 6'1", 210, big fella, still pretty young. Yeah, like you said, at 22 years old. So, dude, anything, whatever, any kind of promise for IKF is a win. And we just got into this guy. He's more on my radar. It's just, man, there's so many prospects out there. It's tough to have them all off, on the speed dial. And for you kids, that's an expression. You don't have to know what a speed dial is.
Yeah. I'm going to move us along real quick here just so that we can touch on the last few players before we wrap the show today, because we're just not going to get to everything. What did you feel with Mac Horvath being moved in the Zach Eflin deal? The Rays getting Horvath, Jackson, Bosmuter, and then Matthew Etzel. Did you feel like this was a good turnout for the prospects headed to the Rays? Do you like Eflin in Baltimore?
Yeah, I mean, they're just out in depth. I remember when Chris Young, the GM of the Rangers last year, he said, you always need more pitching. Because when he made the moves at the deadline for Montgomery and Eovaldi, actually, Eovaldi was an offseason. I don't remember anymore. But he brought in a lot of pitchers. It seems like he almost had too many pitchers at one point. Yeah. And I was like, why do you have all these guys? And then injuries started popping up. And then a guy like Montgomery, for sure, was very instrumental down the stretch in winning a World Series. And that poke stuck with me for fantasy, too. I'm trying because I've been in situations. I'm like, yeah, I feel like I got too many pitchers, man. Like, I need some more bats. And then I trade a pitcher. The next thing you know, 3 injuries in a row. Just recently I had Pepiot and Olsen get hurt, and some other pitcher got hurt too, I think. But anyway, like in one league, just got decimated overnight. And I'm like, dang, man, it happens. It happens all the time. So, yeah, the Orioles are just playing it safe here, grabbing Rogers, grabbing Eflin, just padding that area for a deep playoff run, right? It's kind of like the Rangers were doing. They're smart stuff. These guys, Mac Horvath is like a questionable approach guy, but big pop. Well, big enough pop, and he's fast. He's kind of a freaky athlete, dude. And Ross doesn't like him. He wanted us to cut him. We had to cut him in our 20-man league. I have to go ahead and monitor him because I like the upside there. Some guys out there really love him. I believe it's Kirk Snyder, a Dynasty 411 guy or whatever his tag is. Anyway, he's cool. I think he likes him a lot. And then I like Jackson Bowmeister. He's a under the radar arm. I got him in our 30-man. I picked him up like on that, that little like residual or after draft little free for all we had. Anyway, I made sure to get him because the Orioles went up and got him in the second round this last year's draft, and that's a deep draft. Brock Wilken home run. See a little notification. I have Brock. Do you guys have the Brock Wilken home run app? I thought we all had it.
Are you using JP's?
Yes.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, he's great. Okay, so just real quick though, but Bouwmeester, he's like 6'4", 220 kind of build. And they picked him in the second round. Super raw, such a weird guy. It's worth talking about him because you look at his college numbers, really not impressive. Like a 5 ERA, I think, his last year. Yeah, he did 5.09.
Florida State, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
And so then he comes in here this year. They skipped low A, which is kind of bizarre, and they put him right to high A, and he's doing well. 3.06 ERA. You know, there's things to work out. He's still working on developing that full arsenal as well. But for him to go to the Rays, it's like the Orioles are really good at developing bats, but we don't really know about the arms. Maybe they'll get better than they were in the past. But Bradish is definitely a success story. Bradish, Grayson Rodriguez.
Yeah, the Rays.
I
big,
love it as a landing spot. Yeah, for Bouwmeester.
Yeah. Now, and it was interesting. I was watching the Rays game before we jumped on, just watching Springs and his debut this year. We look forward to Bouwmeester, but probably 2026 in all reality, because they're looking at a rotation next year with Springs, McClanahan, Rasmussen, Baz, Littell, the number of guys, right? They have the depth going into next year. But what I like about Bouwmeester is the fact that they don't have to rush him. He can probably get a taste of AA this year, start at AA next year, hit AAA. By 2026, he could be looking at a real shot. And to your point, like, what a better organization to develop him in. Mm-hmm. That's a under the radar move. I actually really like Etzel last year. He popped on the Scout the Stat Line model last year at the end of the year, coming over from the collegiate ranks into the minor league. Etzel with the stolen bases and a little bit of pop. This kid could be a starting corner outfielder or a very nice fourth outfielder with a little bit of speed. I think he's underrated. I actually like both of them, I think, over Horvath. That's just kind of crazy to say.
Yeah, I've heard his name passed around. It's an interesting deal.
I'm going to try to speed round us here as we round out the show today. Nate Pearson headed over to the Cubs. Any interest in Dynasty long-term as a possible closer in Chicago moving forward in the next few years?
I thought it was going to be Hunter Biggie or whatever you pronounce his name as, Bidge. But no, Hector Neris is just like walking tightropes at all times. Luke Little, he looks like he could be a guy. Sure, I'll give you a sure maybe 30-team kind of look, but not really a priority ad for me at this point. Yeah. Keep an eye on him.
Phillies acquire Carlos Estevez from the Angels. I think the big name here is George Clausen out of the University of Minnesota. That's a big one. It's a big one, Doc. What do you think of that deal?
Yeah, I mean, the Phillies just seem to have no regard for their farm system, which is already kind of thin. But hey,
I mean, Dombrowski never has, right?
No. So yeah, they're clearly not too. Whatever, they'll go out and buy a pitcher, I guess. I mean, the thing is, you got fun guys like Harper and Turner on the team for the next few years to still be in their prime, next couple of years at least. That's going to be an easy sell for free agent pitchers. You can bring them in that way.
Well, I was going to say, it helps to have Aaron Nola locked up, Zach Wheeler locked up. It helps to have Andrew Painter, who we've all forgotten about, ready to rock and roll 2025. That makes it a little, and the kid they just signed, the lefty that they've extended, they're doing pretty good for themselves.
Yeah, I mean, right? Yeah. So it's just they've been doing all right, and I think overall, it's a deal that makes sense. Jeff Hoffman has been such a great reliever for them in Philadelphia. They got they're looking like a tough team to play against. You're not going to get a lot of easy relievers coming your way in the playoffs.
No, they're acquiring guys for the National League Championship Series, for the World Series, right? Like these moves are made specifically for moments in October when they need to call upon one of these guys. It's not to get them there. And I think that's what's impressive. Talking about a middle reliever / high leverage pitcher, Jason Adams from the Rays, moving over to the Padres. This was another one of their acquisitions. We kind of forecasted this earlier. Dylan Lesko, Homer Bush Jr., underrated contact speed profile. And then JD Gonzalez, a catcher. You had 3 top 12 organizational prospects from San Diego head over to the Rays here. What are your overall thoughts?
Man, lot to pay up for a reliever, but that's some of the difference between, you know, our world and the Major League Baseball, I guess. Like we're talking about, you can build up your rotation all you want, unless you have a guy who's going to go 8 or 9 innings, and eventually you're going to run into a spot, where your pitcher is going to probably be out 4 or 5 innings at one of
Yeah.
these games, unfortunately, and you need some. If you want to stay in that game, if you don't want to surrender any games, which you don't, then you need to have a quality bullpen. So the people are willing to pay up for it. In some situations, seems a little bit too much in my opinion, but hey, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and I think big note for Adams, 32 years old, is under control through the 2026 season. So the Padres here are going to lose Scott, who they acquired from Miami, but they will hold on to Adams for a number of years. So they're really beefing up this bullpen, which needed the help. But at least they have a little bit more control when you're losing 3 top 12 prospects for a guy that'll be there. I think the last deal we're going to talk about today, Doc, as we're at about an hour and 5 minutes here, is the Dodgers acquiring Tommy Edman and Michael Kopech, Oliver Gonzalez, Cardinals getting Eric Fedde, Tommy Pham, and the White Sox acquiring Miguel Vargas, Jarrell Perez, and another infielder in the deal. This was a pretty big one. What did you think?
Who was the other guy they got?
Alexander Albertus.
Okay, I could have sworn they got.
I'm not familiar.
Yeah. All right. Well, I won't get too hung up on that. But yeah, that's actually a massive deal. That's something I'm glad we went back to talk about. Edman's pretty underrated. Something's wrong with his wrist. I mean, he took a long time getting back. I'm really nervous with batters. It's like the shoulder elbow stuff for me. Alex Kirilloff just scared me for life. I think with this debilitating wrist injury that never really has gone away.
Ricky Weeks. Yeah, we've mentioned this before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So folks, yes, I don't think it's talked about enough in the fantasy world. Wrist stuff, it's the equivalent of something's bugging up with his elbow or shoulder if he was a pitcher. So because it saps your power, it's all in the wrists. So yeah, that's a little tough one to. Hey, for real life, he's going to be a solid defender, utility guy, fast. For fantasy purposes, hopefully that speed plays. Not sure how much. He'll probably get enough playing time. Not sure enough to be really viable in fantasy. We'll find out. Kopech, that'll be an interesting one because there's been some kerfuffling at the back of the Dodgers bullpen. There's been Evan Phillips really frustrating me in a few leagues. Dan Hudson, hey, here's the keys, buddy, and he immediately messes it up. Right, he blows one the other night. Crazy baby in the hallway. She wants me to be done this podcast. Anyway, Miguel Vargas, hey, this is great. He'll get all the time in the world now to see if he can ever live up to that top billing we were hoping for. Jarrell Perez, very fun young guy that the scout stat line model, I believe, likes him a lot. I know Ross likes him a lot. Eric Fedde's such a weird guy. It'd be so funny if he works out because I believe Fedde went over to Japan last year, and that's what Miles Michaelis did.
Yep.
And rebuilt his career. And I didn't really believe in Fedde this year. I was just so grossed out by his previous MLB numbers. But hey, man, what a hilarious rotation. If the Cardinals get in the playoffs, it'd be such a funny one. It's not a great obvious stud, but you're like Lance Lynn, Kyle Gibson, Miles Michaelis, Eric Fedde. It's dude, just the grindiest grinders. I hope that it's just you can't help it. You got to root for that. I know you're a Brewers guy, but that's funny.
I was huge on Fedde, and I got him in a lot of leagues this offseason because a lot of people felt like you did. And in those leagues, I was rebuilding. I was going into it with a rebuilding attitude. So as many of us do, my thought was well, who can I go out and get that has no value that may get me a Jarrell Perez in fantasy, right? Maybe I can flip him at the deadline. And I had heard the Fedde rumblings that he had been working on things with Driveline before he went over. And then he obviously, won some awards last year overseas, but he's been great. I thought they'd get more for him, honestly. Yeah, if I'm correct, he's on a 2-year deal. Jarrell Perez, while, was one of the buzziest players this season at a certain point in the year, has struggled mightily. So, Miguel Vargas and Perez, I guess. I don't know. From all the returns that we had over the last couple of days, this one I didn't love.
Yeah, well, Vargas, part of the scouting report originally was that he's going to be competing for batting titles one day. Such a solid bat, right? And he had a hand injury last year, and I just don't know. I guess we're going to find out that there was a knock on his power, though. So that's what we're going to have to see. And the White Sox have an underrated hitter's park as far as I'm aware. So we'll see. And also, I guess the X factor we didn't mention here, just really briefly, Tommy Pham. Very interesting to see that. I feel like the Cardinals are kind of old school. I know they got some passionate guys out there, but it'll be interesting because Pham is kind of like a wild card. You know, he can play really well when he gets hot, but he can also just lose it, right, and be this like maybe too emotional in some situations. So we'll see what he does for the St. Louis Cardinals in their playoff hunt.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really good point. And there were some reports coming out that certain Cardinal players had asked for Pham to be traded for by name. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
Obviously goes into play with what you just said. Okay, I lied. One last deal just because you roster this player, so I really want to see what you think. Guardians acquire Lane Thomas, headed back to the Nationals. Three prospects. One of those prospects, left-handed pitcher. Am I going to pronounce this correctly? Clemmy?
Yeah, Alex Clemmy. I don't think
Alex
that's
Clemmy.
pronounced.
Okay.
You got that one.
What did you think about this? Do you like the landing spot for Clemmy, who now presumably kind of sits in with Travis Sikora as future rotation pieces for the Nationals? I think it's a big ad.
I think it's Sikora.
What did I say? What did I say?
Sikora, which sounds cooler, I guess.
Yeah. We'd have to do it like psych for the K's, but I still don't think it works.
Yeah. So I think I'm pretty confident I traded this guy, Clemmy. I like him. He's been killing it lately. Have you seen his numbers lately?
Well, we were in trade talks with him, and I just wasn't as interested as you were selling.
Yeah.
But now I'm more interested.
Yeah. Well, he's been doing great lately. So the profile on him coming out of the draft was, I don't know if I saw this or I just thought this, but Chris Sale, like he's like 6'6", lefty, very spindly. I'm not sure if that's a real word, but he's got some really great stuff. I believe it's got some great off-speed stuff. It really has a lot of bend to it. But they said he's raw, and he's young. He's a high schooler. He's going to need some work. So I was really excited being in the Cleveland organization because they know pitchers, right? So he's been doing great. Hopefully that early development, he can stick with some of the things he's learned. But that said, there's still some good development in front of him, and we're going to find out. The Nationals seem to be handling Sikora just fine, but they're not renowned for their pitching development necessarily. I mean, Mackenzie Gore, it's not really – it's like he's flashing immense strikeout upside, and then he just can't find any.
Can't limit the runs.
Yeah. What did I trade here? What the heck is this trade? This is a massive trade. Okay, I got Zebby Matthews back in that deal at least. That's a crazy deal. I'm not sure if I necessarily like that deal. Oh yeah, that's what it was. I managed to offload Spencer Torkelson's massive contract. Sent Torkelson and Colson Montgomery and Clemmy, and I got back a bunch of this mismatch.
If I could tell you, and I'm going to completely deviate in a different direction here.
Yeah.
If I could tell you that you were going to get 4 home runs, I think it's 8 or 9 RBIs in the first 2 games of a player being acquired at the deadline, you'd be pretty stoked, right?
Sure.
Yeah, that's Jazz Chisholm. 2 more home runs today.
Hey, everyone, you should read my Sunday Smoke article because, hey, I'm a guy who was like not big on Jazz. And in this article, I'm ripping on him again for what he was doing over the offseason. But I said, I was very clear. I said, if he's going to break out, this is it. It's either it's never going to happen or it's going to happen right now. Because
in a big way, yeah.
Honestly, it's like this. I didn't put this in the article. I said it in every other way, but it's like a rebellious boy, right? It's like a movie, right? You got all the promise in the world, kid. What are you trying to fight? Who are you fighting? He just needs a father figure to come in. The movie, right? The movie would have a father figure come in and lead this kid out of the life of crap or whatever he's doing, right? All right, we're going.
What's crazy is though, Doc, that like while he was traded, they were talking about the relationship that Jazz and Jeter used to have in Miami, and it sounded very like father mentor-esque with what you're just describing, which is kind of why it's funny because it did seem as though Jazz was looking for a leader to lead him, and the leader in Miami happened to be himself, and I think that was where some of those comments came off. And I think when we look back on this interview that he had that you and I both criticized him for, we may look at it differently now that he has Aaron Judge and Juan Soto as his leaders. I mean, it's 4 home runs in 2 days, and this isn't necessarily, he's in a different division, they don't know how to pitch him. He's done this against the Phillies, who were in his same division. There's not a team that should know him better than maybe Philadelphia. So I think it's very impressive. We'll have to see. I mean, providing immediate impact. That's what deadline deals are all about.
Yeah, buddy, good for him. You know, hope it's for the. Hey, dude, you're not talking back to Aaron Judge. It's not going to go well. So,
No, and Marcus
yeah.
Stroman found that out.
Yes, so I'm excited for him. I don't have many leagues. I probably should have. Man, I've just been busy, but I probably should have made a little flyer offer, see what happens, huh?
I thought about it, and I couldn't because of how I felt. I mean,
Sure.
It's been 2 days. Doc, we're gonna wrap it. So we're at an hour 15. We will be getting this out hopefully within the next 15 minutes on all platforms. Anything to leave the listener with?
I'm your Huckleberry.
Thank you for listening. We will see you guys next week.